Hi guys, welcome back to Vaarcity Talks. My name is Dash. Here with you, that wasn't necessary. I'm here with Sammy and Shannon. And what are we talking about today?
So today is...
So apparently Shannon's got a question.
Provocative question.
And wants us to prove him wrong.
So it's evil doesn't exist. Prove me wrong. Who wants to go first?
You know, I'll go first by asking you what makes you think that it doesn't exist. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, that's important.
I think that is important, but I'm not gonna let you bounce it back to me so that you can.
But it's your question.
Okay, all right, cool, whatever. All right, so
if we don't know,
so like I believe that evil doesn't exist, and I believe evil doesn't exist because like. I should have really actually formulated before coming here.
It's okay, man. Like it's natural conversations. Like
yeah, no, but I'm just trying to formulate how I'm gonna explain it really and truly. Well, I believe that there's no real signs of evil within nature, and I think that there's a number of other things, but I think that is one of the main reasons why I choose to believe evil doesn't exist. Because then when you come to our species, humans, we use evil to dehumanize and break people down for doing certain acts. And I just believe that we shouldn't really call people evil, but more use the word as a description of the things they've done as evil. You know,
so evil deeds can happen, but not by evil people. Is that what you're saying?
Somewhat. It seems like, you know, if you're saying that the deed that they've done is evil.
I don't say that disagreeing with you. I'm just...
No, I know. But it seems logical that you would think that, okay, if someone's done an evil deed, then they're evil. But the reason why I would try to disconnect myself from that way of thinking is because then you don't think of that person as a person, and you think that it's justifiable to punish them in whatever way you want. And then when you're talking about things with like mental illnesses and, you know, murderers or things like that, it really comes down to understanding how to change that mindset. And as soon as you've deemed them as evil, you're no longer trying to understand them. You're just trying to punish or deal with that person in whichever way you feel is acceptable because of the things they've done.
Right.
You know?
I mean, I would say like mental health is at the forefront of, you know, what could easily be identified as evil in terms of treating people in prisons.
Say that again?
Like, because you said, if I'm not mistaken, you said like just...
I mentioned mental health.
Yeah. But
in terms of, you know, like...
okay.
Go on.
So that's... Yeah, thank you. But when you were saying like mental health, yeah, we treat that in like... So if like an evil person has done what could be considered... a person who could be considered evil has done what could be considered an evil deed and is locked up. You know, the end of the road as far as like their actions is concerned and are the way we handle that as a society. You know, you are provided with like mental health treatment and stuff like that. So I suppose in a way, the judicial system and I suppose the government's approach to what would be considered evil is actually quite progressive in that regard, because
not all the time.
Agreed, not all the time, but it's I feel like maybe not all the time. So
even I wouldn't even go as far to say as most of the time it's not, because we don't.
Okay,
like even when you're
maybe
say again?
Yeah, maybe not. You know, it's tricky, man.
So can I ask a question? So so obviously the question was evil doesn't exist, prove me wrong. So, but then surely, if you can acknowledge that...
See, I was waiting for someone to say that.
Yeah, that's the... And I thought you was going to explain that when you first started making your point, and you didn't. But nonetheless, I guess outside of that, there was... Well, yeah, first and foremost, that in itself kind of crushes your argument.
Wait, explain what does, because I understood what you were saying, but you didn't actually explain it.
So the idea to say that evil doesn't exist, but to then acknowledge that evil deeds can be done, that would then mean that evil does exist in some shape.
I mean, I wouldn't say it depends on how you want to look at it. Me personally, just for the sake of society, I buy into the fact that there are evil deeds, I would say. But, you know, so like if a murderer killed 10 newborn babies. You know, I understand why someone would call that evil. And I understand that there is definitely a darkness there around that situation. But I also would prefer to look at it as that person's messed up for a reason. Let's find out that reason, you know, and try to understand.
So
I agree.
It seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that I think your biggest issue with the term evil is when it's applied to human beings. You get me?
And how it's used.
Nature, me? And I think I'm with you most part of that. Excuse me. I think I'm with you on that. But at the same time, I can't help but feel on. Well, I guess the way I would go about proving you wrong is to then ask you, well, surely you understand and accept that acts of goodness can happen.
Exactly.
And it's as much as it can be interpreted, the reality is like good is the opposite of evil. It is
I would stop you there, and I wouldn't.
Do you not believe that this?
Surely you would look upon good in this exact same way that you would look upon evil, right?
You would think that, but do people actually look upon good as in the same way as they look at evil?
This is your question. Is my point though? Like, surely you would though. If you're enlightened enough to look at evil that way, surely good applies in the same regard. And if anything, if evil doesn't exist,
like I wouldn't like, you know, the term good and evil. I wouldn't look at it as good and evil. Good and bad is like how I see it. Like, I'm not disregarding good. I feel like evil puts more emphasis on the bad, whereas good doesn't put more emphasis on the good. It's just a good thing.
Well, you know, I think that might be down to how the two words, or three words rather, are defined. Because let's take, for example, even if good and bad are we'll call, in your example, polar opposites, good and bad. The thing about evil is that evil is a division of bad. You feel me? Like, it comes under the umbrella term of bad. The thing about an act, say for example,
my point,
say if you've got a spectrum of, say for example, like neutral, bad, evil, neutral, good, X term, whatever this last term is, we don't have that to describe extreme acts of goodness. You feel me?
Kind of do, like greatness.
Well, yeah, we do. But I think something to polar opposite evil, the nearest definition would be good. You feel me? Like, but I think see, and this the issue. I think the issue the biggest issue with this, in my opinion at least, is the fact that the term evil is often related to some form of religious or biblical term. It almost ties in. It almost automatically ties in with the idea of the devil and Satan and all these other things, you know. But I guess you take
goodness too, just maybe lost.
I think also on how I think
goodness represents God, like, surely, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that when you speak about bad, you know, and you speak about evil, or something bad or negative, there's normally more or greater
sensitivity.
Not sensitivity, but, you know, bigger impact on the things that come next. If that makes sense. Yeah, you know, you say you've done a good thing, it's a pat on the back. Oh, you did a good thing. Smiles and like, but you do something bad and something that's considered evil, there's more punishment and things that come after it, which is why I think there's...
And I think there should be.
Well, yes, there should be, but that's why we should also be a bit more sensitive on how we use the word evil, because it can create a mentality where people feel justified in almost committing the evil things that they called evil and do them to the, you know, the person who did the evil.
I mean, you know? Listen, if your point is to try and understand people on an individual level when dealing with these things, then 100% I agree. Then evil does not exist. Well, you have to believe that evil is it's tricky, man. It's tricky. Coming from a moralistic standpoint, it's really tricky.
So,
you know, if you're mentally ill, if you have, everyone has whatever they have had to deal with, and so if you try to understand that, then.
But then, what if you're not mentally ill?
Wait,
what if it's a choice?
It's tricky, right?
What if it becomes? What
there
if
is truth? There are people that gain satisfaction.
Exactly. And I think equally there probably is something neurologically that is tweaked for you to think that way. But nonetheless, like when you take out the side of mental illness that covers the consciousness. You feel me? Like someone who's actually making these conscious decisions to do these acts of what people would class evil. Does it not then become what it is? Surely.
But see, the thing is that you're going under the question of nurture v nature here, and I'm a believer of nurture, which is why I'm able to believe what I believe when it comes to evil. I feel if you believe in nature, you may have a complete, like, if you believe people are, you know, like, if you believe that someone can, you know, be born the way they are and just become that person without being nurtured in it, they could have the best life and still be nurtured, still become this evil person because it's within them, then I can understand how you would believe in evil. I'm a person who believes in nurture, and I believe
there are people like that are born with biological, you know, deficiencies.
I understood that point.
I think I did, but you know, you're seeing the complete extreme of like an absence of nurture. Is that what I'm saying? Shannon, like you're not nurtured in any negative way and turn out to be that way, and that.
No, I'm saying that you are nurtured. The reason why I believe that evil doesn't exist is because I believe in nurture.
But you said someone that had a perfect life and didn't.
If someone had a perfect life, like, and you know, they just naturally were evil.
Naturally.
Yeah, naturally. Then I can understand how you could believe in evil, because you believe that is just their spirit in a sense. You know, they're just that type of person. I
wouldn't say spirit, but I would say like there are even biological. Someone could be born with like a biological deficiency in like serotonin or dopamine that leads to severe depression and, you know, just a terrible or, you know, otherwise destructive outlook on society. And so that is surely natural, right? So you can't.
That still wouldn't. I still wouldn't see them as evil, because then we understood how they got there. You know, we understand the difference. You know, kind of thing.
Like ultimately, isn't it
evil?
Isn't it?
I mean, I would prefer not to call them evil. No, I would prefer to understand that they've had a unique.
But regardless of that.
Regardless of,
it seems to me like now that we've taken it here, it almost feels to me like
it exists.
You could argue that evil is a creation. You feel me? Like you could argue it. That evil is like,
I mean, it is.
Yeah, I remember saying the same thing to you. It's like,
it's not in you, but you can make this thing.
But that's why I wouldn't call people evil.
But here's the thing though, because the thing about people is that we are who we create. Like we really do shape ourselves. We are one of the very few animals that are able to have a vision or have some kind of thought and go, let me actually bring this into reality, actually manifest something. And so if you're manifesting evil, then surely, and especially on a mass scale, if that happens on a mass scale, from individuals to countries to political parties, anything, regardless of what your angle is, surely then that becomes what you've manifested. That becomes evil. What you've done.
But that's what I'm agreeing with. Like, my question is I
guess what you do makes you, like, what you do really makes you, like, if you're going around raping girls and you're a rapist, you get me? Like, if I'm sitting here making music, then I'm a musician. You feel me? Like I say, if I'm out here doing evil, then I'm evil. Like,
I think, like, what I like to say is, and the question really wasn't formulated the best, I guess, but like, I choose to believe evil exists is one of the things that I say. And, you know,
explain that, please.
Like, it's back to how we started the conversation, but it's a matter of how people like to define other people as this word in order to, you know, justify actions and repercussions, which may be just as evil as the person that you're dealing with, you know. So
I suppose the real question here is like, or not the question, but the statement would be that you know, evil shouldn't be defined, or like, I suppose you define evil.
I wouldn't define someone else as evil.
Yeah, I hear that.
I'm
just saying the question is, what was it? Evil doesn't exist.
Yes.
Prove me wrong. I suppose I have a problem with the grammar. Like, it's a grammatical error for me. Like, because evil, in my opinion, exists. Like, as well, it's hard. I feel like it's hardly opinion, because evil deeds can be done, and you associate the word with a horrible thing, and so by definition, the word exists. So that it exists as a thing. Like, So it's
it
hard
exists
for me.
as
it's hard
but
for me.
that's
But I appreciate all your points though. Like
that's what I said that somewhat from the beginning when Hashem was kind of bringing that up. So but at the same time,
we should definitely look like more into it, man.
Like my point is just not to use it to describe someone else.
I kind of want to
don't use it to describe someone else. Use it to describe an action or something that's been done. But even then, we just have to understand that the word is a description. It's not really. It exists because we make it exist in terms of the word, like you said, Sammy, somewhat. But it's not really an entity. It's not like, I mean, you can go onto the spiritual side maybe and talk about, like you said, it often does. It normally does go into that. But I mean, really,
so I guess the question I want to ask you is why do you feel? Because it seems to me like why do you feel that people who are deemed evil deserve? Trying to find the right words to describe this.
Not to be called evil.
Yeah, like why do you feel like people who commit these acts that are deemed as evil deserve the words on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of it. But you know what, like.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but like because they're people.
Yeah, there we go. The compassion to.
Because they're people.
Because
they're humans. Like everyone deserves, a level of compassion.
But it's at what point though? Because sometimes, because the thing about evil, bruv, you can't be compassionate with evil.
I'm not saying. Look, I'm not. See, but that right there, your statement right there is my point. Right, you defined it as evil. You defined someone as evil.
Well, no.
And as soon as you said you can't be compassionate with evil, and then you could use that at that point to describe someone. So you can't.
But I can also use that to describe the acts that someone is doing. And if someone is doing,
you wouldn't you would never be compassionate with the acts that someone does, though. You would only be compassionate with a person. So in that statement, you meant it for a person. You can't be compassionate with evil.
Regardless of whether I believe that person is evil or whether the acts they've done are evil or both. Even if it's just as hypothetically speaking, let's say that I don't actually believe that the person is evil, but their acts are evil. Like I say, you can't be compassionate with evil. And so in that sense, personifying these acts that they're doing, I can't be compassionate with that because that will just grow. And say, for example, taking again, I guess a rapist, like a conscious rapist, like you can't, I guess it doesn't really matter, but the point I was trying to make is that there's only so much compassion you have before you have to make it, you have to draw the line, fam, because you, like I say, you can't be compassionate with evil. Yeah, you be compassionate with evil, that shit grows.
Well, I'm not asking.
It's kind of true, man.
I'm not asking you to be compassionate with evil, though. Like you don't have to be. You don't have to not believe evil exists and then, be compassionate. They're not coherent. Like you don't have to be compassionate. What I'm asking for is, more of a, why are you laughing? More of a level of understanding, not understanding, but trying to understand.
How much
and break down.
How much can you give?
I mean, obviously, it's like
how soon before you are over the evil before you can give it? Like, say, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, at what point are you gonna be compassionate to a rapist?
Listen, I guess I'm looking
hard,
at,
man.
I'm not. Yeah,
it's pretty hard, man.
I know for a fact because I'm not saying that if I was face to face with someone who did something monstrous to my family, in fact, I would be able to, treat them
with compassion.
With, it's not compassion though, but
understanding,
baseline.
I mean, enough compassion to fucking try and understand. Surely, right?
That's just the tip of the tip. That takes a lot.
It does. No, I hear you. I fully hear you. I fully agree. But at the same time, I feel that you still, like it's just a level of understanding of that they're still human. They still have a life.
And I get that.
So it's like, they're still a person. So even though they've I guess what I'm trying to say is to have a level of, and it's incredibly hard. I don't even know if I would fully, in certain instances, if someone did something to my sister, be able to keep this on board. With some other people, yes, I'd be able to keep it on board. But, I hope I would be able to, and keep to, not wanting to do evil acts back onto them. But it's a very hard thing to. Why are you laughing?
And this is where it gets deep because now, in my opinion, it's like, well, cool. I can have that understanding, but I also understand that you now need to die, or you now need to be put in prison for life, or you now need to be sectioned, or you now need there just comes the line.
I'm not asking for no punishment. I think saying that evil doesn't exist doesn't mean that no one should be punished for the bad things that they do. My point is just to recognize them as human while
how do you get that? How does that even prove your question right?
Say again.
How does looking at like it, so evil? You're saying
because I think people like I said, I've said it a few times. People use the word evil
to dehumanize
people.
Well.
You say like
I don't know. I don't know if necessarily is dehumanizing.
I get it.
But I suppose I understand it.
It is because you're now they're disconnected. Like you see them as evil. Like it's and the imagination of what evil is something that needs to be exterminated. It needs to be
exterminated.
Like I mean you like
because it's factual to a point, right?
To what do you mean?
It's factual to the point like of if an evil deed is done, like don't know if you can necessarily say that wasn't like I suppose intention is everything, right? And if you haven't if you understand the intention, like if the intention is clear, because if the intention is not clear, like for example someone was defending themselves, killed someone, and someone just killed someone, those are completely fucking different.
Yeah.
So as long as the intention is clear, the person actually actively fucking detonated something or fucking raped someone, like if that was the intention was clear, you followed through the action, then surely that is an evil act. Surely, like just working backwards from that fucking point, you have an evil person that committed an evil act. Like, I'm not saying that, I suppose, man, I don't know, it's tricky, man, it's tricky.
No, it's
troubled people, like, have to warrant some understanding. So, see, I don't want to seem like a bigot. I'm just saying, like evil might not exist in the person, but yeah, I suppose, yeah, man.
And that's my whole point.
To your point.
But but that goes back to my question kind of being flawed in a sense, because I believe evil acts exist. I just don't I understand why people would call certain acts evil.
Yeah.
As a description to allow people to understand how bad that act was.
I think people can become evil.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think people can become evil.
I feel like everyone has the capacity for evil. Yeah. Like, fucking the Nazi soldiers, World War II, suffered. Like, you see, it's easy to dehumanize them as well. Like, so you'd call so many of them that work in like fucking factories, like essentially factories like fucking Dachau or, just Auschwitz. And you can call them so evil, but like it's little is it known that Nazi soldiers suffered mass mental breakdowns. So it's easy to go, yo, fucking those guys, and they did, man. They did fucked shit. Like, they suffered severe mental breakdowns, man. Fucking psychosis and shit, mental breaks, and that's not really known. And in a way, like,
it's not even trying to be like. It's not. People are not looking to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because somewhat they've been deemed. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not trying to take away from like in that example is kind of perfect as like. The Nazis doing such disgusting things. I'm not trying to take away from the fact that they've done disgusting things and saying that
definitely it should be understood, right?
Like I'm not trying to take away from that, but at the same time, you should have a level of understanding of that they were people, and yes, they did bad things. Yes, they went down a wrong path, but there were reasons why they went down that path, And I think in order to stop history repeating itself, it comes to a level of understanding why history went that way in the first place.
But in a way, though,
organized religion.
Organized
religion. Organized. Religion.
We'll talk though.
Organized religion.
I mean,
that's the point. That's the.
Oh, that's a whole realm.
That's another realm that we can't actually get onto. We're going to wrap this up.
Can I just say one last point? Just one last. Surely the same person who's committed the evil act, should have the compassion in themselves to understand what they're doing is against the norm,
and it's considered evil.
And it's considered evil. If you lack that awareness by some kind of fucking mental defect, okay.
But see,
but if you're a fairly sane person, aware of their faculties, and you understand that there is this thing called fucking society, and they are so opposed to what you're doing. If you can't see that reason, or like, don't care enough to go and fucking reason with them.
But the thing
you know what, mate? That's bro. You understand what you're doing.
But see, the thing is that I think, yeah. Sorry, I feel like just to reply just to that last thing, that we're forgetting how powerful the power of, you know, convincing yourself that what you're doing is for a cause.
Yeah,
and
no, I agree.
And that can really change the lines of what you believe to be good and bad, you know, kind of thing.
I hear that.
But yeah, anyway, let's wrap it up.
Save it for the comment section, guys. Save it for the comment section. Vaarcity Talks.